The intent of the program launch is primarily to help digital consumer brands, both Indian and global, get into the Indian market. Because the Indian market is very unique, very large, very complex, but it needs certain elements to scale up. And that's why we're looking for very unique brands in fashion, food and beverages, digital commerce, and personal care. As a program, this is going to be run out of Mumbai to start with, but the intent is to go across India. The first batch of companies are going to be between 5 and 10 startups that we'll look at. We'll provide some capital, initial capital for them, and then also the marketing and sales support. Rana is going to speak to you in a bit, but he also owns a company called Quan, which also has the celebrity engagement. So we also like to see which brands can actually, which celebrities can endorse which brands. But that's after. Firstly, we'd like to look at what the business models are, how we can help them scale up, all of that stuff. With that being said, I'm going to give it to Rana to introduce himself and why he's here and what is our association. So I'll let him speak on that.
Hello, good morning, slightly late afternoon, but thank you guys for coming. And just to continue on what Prasad spoke, I've been part with Antle Ventures. We built something called the Antle Studios about a year and a half ago. The first focus was technology in the media and entertainment business. So we kind of ran out a program and started picking up interesting new tech in the visual effects space, in augmented reality, in virtual reality, and then moved to blockchain. So these were things that were never in the movie business, never in the entertainment field, but through these channels we were able to find out the ways it was done in the rest of the world, and were able to scale those things up here. And moving to urbanization in terms of consumer brands focus for right now, I've been associated with Quan for over 2.5 years, and we've been seeing that the model of advertising has been changing for every single product because the want of a consumer has been changing. And today, if you see advertising, it's more storytelling than the ad itself. Now, and today's millennial buyers have a very specific way of buying things. They want very specific things. They want the right things, and most of it has gone online. And today we see that there's so many independent entrepreneurs with extremely fine products, but probably not enough capital or not enough sales and marketing support. And I think with this program, that's really what we want to fix with UrbanEye. And anything else you would like to add on?
Yeah, I think Rana clearly mentioned that media strategy is a very important component now for scaling up consumer brands. The consumption of media at this point has changed from going to watching big spectacle films in theaters all the way to your houses and to your mobiles. So a media strategy is so important for any digital brand to scale up. Today, most of the millennials, unlike us, unlike me, not him, are actually buying online, and are buying on Instagram, or buying on Facebook, right? So that really helps how Rana's expertise, comes from storytelling. And that storytelling comes to the brand now through a platform called UrbanEye. And for us, UrbanEye is a platform that can help brands scale up with exponential speed, because that's what we need. Because if startup brands don't scale up really fast, they fall flat. And that's what we have learned in the last 4 years of Antle, is that if you do not have scale and if you do not have speed, you'll die very fast in today's environment. Yeah, with that, I'd like to open up for questions. Enough of us talking, but like to see what questions you folks have so we can answer them.
Yeah, question from here. You are planning to invest up to 100K, you said, and go up to $1 million on completion of the program. How long do you think a method of investing in that? Yes, would you probably invest at the rate of every monthly thing, or
Sure. So we are a VC fund, Cat One registered fund here, and we have a global fund. We invest from the fund. We typically like to invest a little less early, and that means one check, probably between $50,000 and $100,000, and then watch how the startup is scaling up, and then double down up to $1 million over a period of 1 year. We do think, the startups that are applying it are at different stages. They could be at a stage where they're just launching in the market, which means it's going to take at least a year to scale up. But some of the companies that are coming into the program are already 2 years old, a year old, and all that they need is really a push for market access and celebrity engagement that can probably be just 6 months. Yeah. So that's the, 2 checks. We don't do, it's very difficult for us to do like a monthly kind of a thing. Yeah, we starting off with 4 sectors, which is basically personal care, fashion and accessories, food and beverages, and the 4th one is digital commerce.
Very few people know me, but before I was an actor, I used to still work for a studio in Hyderabad, and I still continue having that job. It's always something that's come first to me, and I started with visual effects and tech. That's how I actually got into this business, and with Prasad and Antle, we kind of understood what the collaborations of the media and the entertainment sector could be in this in the consumer brand world, and we realized we're very advertising focused. We constantly build brands, and through storytelling, we can reach people far, far more than what you can reach in traditional advertising. And today, most of these brands, most of the millennial brands that are in the program, and the ones who are going to follow up, will continue to be people that are very specific in terms of buying. It's reaching that target customer. So I think that's where I lend most support in. And with Kwan, obviously, if there's something that's scaled up enough that we need somebody to endorse it or bring right in. So I think that's something that we'll be able to match very quickly. So it's actually addressed a very old classic problem of ours. As much as you see today, the larger films that are being made are using huge visual effects. We're using cutting edge technology to kind of make those films. But if you go back and see how the trade is done, it's exactly how it was done like 100 years ago. It's the same buyers, the same set of people. So first, and as today, as the volume of content has increased so much, I mean, it's increased close to 100 times in terms of what was made 5 or 7 years ago. The sense of where that content is, where it's being monetized, has become very, very difficult to use in terms of a physical contract. So the first application that we took out of the blockchain was removed crypto, removed all of that, and just picked up smart contracting. So where now, hopefully by March or April this next year, most films that will release will actually come out with an ID, and that ID will, so the theater gets to pick up from that ID, the OTT player gets to pick up from that ID, the satellite gets to pick up from that ID. So that's the kind of tech we're trying to consolidate. And in India, it's especially even more relevant because unlike the West where films are made in Hollywood in one single place, here you have films being made in Bombay, in Hyderabad, in Chennai, in Kerala. So to kind of streamline that system, I think this is the best tech that we could find. Well, perfect. One of our first investments in the program was in Amar Chitrakatha, and it's a company that's pretty profitable. It's back on. If you go to any airport, any of these big public spaces where publications are sold, the comics are back in action. And most of it that sells is also, as much as the new content sells, the old content still has a lot of takers for it. Now, next year, the first big piece that we're actually putting out is a film called Hiranyakashipu. So post Bahubali was the big folklore film that we made, and this will be the big mythology film, and that will be the first of Amar Chitrakatha's film. So hopefully Indian culture and ethos comes back fully into the newer system.
Actually, some of these characters can also be associated with brands. So, you know, when we invested in Amachitrikada, I think the intent was how can we actually create the next Marvel Studios out of India, you know, get some of these characters into life, which means that these characters will not be restricted to just comic books, but movies, games, merchandising, which was how Disney built Disney, right? So I think some of this is, I mean, I see a very interesting synergy between what we did in Antil Studio in the media side and what we're doing in the consumer brands with Urban Eye. So today is the launch, and that's why all of us are here. Yeah, so basically what we've done is, you know, there were some consumer brands that already approached us in the past, and then we've evaluated them and we said, okay, we'll work with one or two of them. We did one investment recently. It's a company called Herringbone and Sui, Bombay-based, very good men's bespoke tailoring brand, luxury, but they have a technology angle on to take measurements by just walking into a booth, and then it's got high scalability from that perspective. So we already did one investment from that angle, but you know, the idea is that the applications are going to be open today. You know, people can go to the website, which is www.urban-i.in, and then they can apply. And we will do a roadshow across the world because we have offices in Israel, New York, and Singapore. And the idea is for us to promote the Urban Eye brand, you know, in these areas to source very interesting consumer brands or you know, companies that are looking at trying to enter the Indian market as well. So we wanted to have a good mix of Indian and global startups because there's a lot of learning that happens with these startups. You know, one of the things Rana pointed out last time was, you know, design thinking or planning before the launch, right? Which is really, really strong with a lot of the Western startups, which I think Indian startups can learn, the Indian brands can learn. Similarly, understanding the culture and ability to adapt the Western brands can learn. So we didn't, that's why we said, okay, this is a fantastic way for us to put a program into a structured format and bring all of these companies in February to come into Bombay. They spend a week with us, which is a very intensive boot camp. In that boot camp, they will learn about Indian market. They will interact with corporates, which are basically large distribution channels. They'll interact with investors, not just us, but investors who are investing into consumer brands. They'll interact with marketing agencies. They'll interact with some celebrities. So the idea is for them to walk away with a holistic view of how to create my speed scaling strategy in India. The output of that program is to create that plan. And then after that, we provide about 6 months to a year of support based on, you know, what the requirement is. So it's just I think whenever we started a program, and we are in 3 sectors, as I said, media, entertainment, health, and urban, it's always about building the ecosystem because it is never about, oh, we have to do it all ourselves. You know, it's an innovation ecosystem has to be broad-based. We need to have corporates. We need to be having mentors. We need to have experts come in and other investors as well because everybody adds value to some of these companies.
Is this program only for India, or are you looking at exports as well, like some of your partners?
So, yeah, the intent is that if there is an Indian brand that wants to go global, great. We would also help because we have those connections and networks in different parts of the world. We work with the Singapore government very closely. We are a global innovation alliance partner with the Singapore government, which means that, you know, trying to look at all technology and science that wants to scale up in India. But on the other side, they are also looking for Indian companies to come into Southeast Asia, right? There's a huge market in Southeast Asia. Singapore is small, but, you know, the other markets are quite huge. US or Europe. It depends on which stage your company is in. Because typically in the early stage, you want to restrict yourself to just one market. so that you learn from the market, and India market is big enough. So the intent of this program was that market access in India, right? But after a while, obviously you want to explore Southeast Asia, and we will provide our help because you're a portfolio company of ours.
And what are some of the structures that one is provided with these startups? Because I imagine at a 100K investment, a startup is not going to be able to afford a celebrity.
Absolutely. From an investment standpoint, we don't want companies to apply for this program for investment. I mean, that's only if they find value in the support that we're providing, we would like them to apply, because some of these companies that are applying are also nicely capitalized. They have already large VC funds invested in them, or they've done angel rounds, so they have capital. But you know, from a question of celebrity engagement, I'll pass that question to Rana, because Rana has worked with celebrities and brands in different structures, and he could throw some light.
So there's been, so this was actually a phenomenon in the last 4 or 5 years, right? I mean, earlier there were multiple brands using multiple celebrities, endorsers, and then eventually it became about the big four. You know, there's a handful of fashion brands that can afford somebody in a celebrity space. Otherwise, it completely goes off into a designer world. There's nothing in between that we had. Then we realized that there's tech that's there. There's a bunch of consumer brands. So there have been a few deals that have been done with Savan and Ranbir in the early days, with Raw Pressery and Jacqueline that was done out at Kwan. What else is there? Epigamia with Deepika. So all of these brands very easily got to scale up in the Indian market with their association. But again, it goes two ways. You don't want to bring a celebrity on too early for a brand that's very, very new. Then you know that a very early startup can't scale to that size when the demand comes up so quickly. So that's really what the program is for. Kind of understand what that brand needs, and then we start fixing it. Is it just a quick story that you need playing the rest in all of India, or do you need a celebrity attached to it? I think all of that is dependent very purely on the brand that kind of comes in.
You know, some of the brands that have approached us now, they don't really require a celebrity. In fact, their whole strategy is that their influences in some of those towns are the celebrities for them. So maybe that is the strategy. You don't have to always push a media spend or a celebrity spend to the startup. That's not the intent of the program. The intent is what helps the startup scale with speed.
So how big is this startup market? Have you all estimated it?
That's a very broad-based question. I mean, again, you know, it's...
Especially looking at India,
Yeah.
how much do you estimate it to be? And then if you're picking up on the foreign countries or foreign
Yeah.
establishments, how much do you estimate it to be in terms of figures?
Yeah, see, I think India is such a huge market, and we've not, and if you go and look up reports, it runs into billions of dollars in size, right? To me, I think that's not really, you know, when people put market size figures on PowerPoint slides, I really ask why, because, you know, the actual addressable market might be different for each brand. For example, we have a brand out there which is only focused at millennial personal care, right? Now that market size is slightly different from, you know, the whole personal care as a market, right? So, I mean, I can't give you a figure because, you know, I think for me, it's like whenever a startup comes and says, here is a 5-year projection, I say, wow, how do you even estimate whether you're going to survive for 1 year? So it's better to tell me that how are you going to use the money that we've given you, you know, in the first 1 year to scale up to that next level. Because most startups are experiments, right? They are getting to market with new products, and they are learning. Obviously, there is an estimate about where they can go, but it's better to know where the money is going to be spent to get them to that next level. Yeah, it is. And that was, I mean, I think it came in a little late, but, you know, the platform is completely open for international as well as Indian brands. Yeah. And sometimes international brands, it could also be later stage brands. Because sometimes when a brand starts in the US, they want to first establish the market there, and now they're thinking of India as a market. So which means that it is probably much later stage, right? They're very well capitalized, but they don't understand the Indian market. So that's where we can add value to it. Mumbai Angels is an angel network. It is an angel investment network. Very familiar with them, and we've co-invested along with them a number of times. But Mumbai Angels is not an accelerator program for growth stage companies. So what we are doing here is one part is just syndication of capital. That means you're from different parts and walks of life, and I'm throwing a deal open for you, and all of you are saying, hey, I want to invest 5 lakhs, I want to invest 20 lakhs, whatever, right? That's one part of the problem. And capital, to me, is just a really small part of the problem. The bigger part of the problem is to get the right mentor, the right advice, the right opportunities for scaling up. That is the larger problem that we need to fix. Because, companies that are growing rapidly, obviously capital is a requirement, no doubt about it, but all these other stuff is more important. And that's what we bring to the table as a platform.
How do you think that these startups will scale up against the likes of, specifically in personal care, like likes of P&G, HLL, Udo? Those are large, robust teams in terms of innovation, in terms of defining the product, in terms of brand endorsement with the celebrity. How do you think that you will be able to add values?
So one is there's a slight because of India being such a big market, right? There's a slight difference in the kinds of buyers or the kind of consumer there is, and very rarely is it defined by larger corporates, because they want to reach a market that's much larger than what it is. Now, for example, you just spoke a little while ago about a millennial personal care brand. Now it's for teens, it's for a certain age, it's what they like, it's what they need, right? And nothing is marketed for them, nothing is made specifically for them. Now, today there's brands that are much more specific in that direction. So that's really where the difference from that and this is. So once you're in a much larger ecosystem of distribution and getting into that network of retail and others, then you need to go at a much more broader mass scale of things. But then if you're in the digital world, it's much easier for you to be focused and get your brand out there.
And I'll add to Rana, I don't know whether you've seen, over the last few years, you must have seen that a lot of corporates, large corporates, want to get into the startup ecosystem. Guess why? Because they feel that they've become big enough and the process inside is much slower now, more expensive to get out a product, right? But they have the resources. They have the distribution channels, they have the capital, they have a brand. What are they looking for? They're looking for the latest and new technology or new ways of marketing, new consumer brands. What happened to Bira, for example, right? Came from nowhere, started with a craft beer, and then scaled up rapidly, right? What happened with Epigamia? What happened with, a bunch of these brands that came from nowhere, right? And it was probably just a business plan saying, oh, we just attack this space. Raw Pressery, just attack this space of health, drinks. So I think in a lot of areas in consumerism in India, any startup brand can actually have the advantage of speed, because they can make decisions faster and move with speed. What do the large corporates want? They want speed. What do the startup guys want? Scale. And that's the whole intent of this program, is to bring the large corporates in, so not leave them out. So we have partners from large corporates coming in into the program. And for them, it's like either we make this, we partner with them, or we acquire them. And mostly it always starts off with a very strong partnership model, right? Because they want to also understand the market. Yeah.
I have a question for Rana's question. As a celebrity, what are your thoughts on social responsibility? Because when we are talking about scaling and we are talking about speedy scale up
See, that definitely is the case. And again, it comes as much as it's from us, it's also from the consumer today. Today, if a consumer has options that he can for his everyday needs that are sustainable, you know that there is a consumer out there who's willing to pay more, if not the same price for something like that. See, then, so that's again very specific to consumers. It's important to educate the entire lot of people to move that direction. But you know, there's business for a certain bunch of people, and we see that growing every day. And you'll see a bunch of those kind of companies in the program for sure.
And you know,
We do. I'm saying there's two ways to it. 100%, yes, I believe in it. 100%, that's the direction we'd want to head. But in today's social system, right, the way it is, you'll always have to create a balance, because what you're also trying to create in this country is a set of entrepreneurs. Is a set of entrepreneurs who can build brands that are globally standing. And today is the time and opportunity in India which you don't want to lose out on, right? So I think everything works in a fine balance of the way things are. Today you see film sets with carbon footprint and making sure that the sets are recycled and things like that. So you know, in every industry or certain vertical, you know, there's that direction being taken. There's many corporates who don't use paper anymore, right? So I think it's first steps, and the sense of educating through brands is also a great exercise for sure.
you know, just adding to Rana, I think the new consumer, the urban consumer, is getting very, very aware of the problem that you just said. So today, some of our children, when we go to stores, they don't want to take a plastic bag. They'd rather carry the goods themselves and put it in the car, right? And that the new set of entrepreneurs that are coming in are thinking about this. And they don't want to make a plastic bag and give it. Now they want to obviously make a biodegradable paper bag, right? Or find another way to package it. So I think the advent and awareness of the urban consumer itself will change that mindset. And I mean, you will see more and more of that coming in. Yeah. Sure. Yeah, sure. You know, sustainability is, as you know, you know, the material and everything like that is not the fastest scalable method. But definitely we are asking the companies to look at that as an element. Yes.
Thank you. Thank you very much.
Thank you very much for coming in. Thanks.
ओके सो फर्स्टली अर्बन आई के बारे में थोड़ा सा जानना चाहेंगे इसके बारे में थोड़ा बता दीजिए एंड सॉरी आई एम आस्किंग योर नेम बट यू हैव टू रिपीट आई कांट टेल
So, Urban Eye is a program
Come and
for,
say
for early growth startups which want to scale up in Indian market, primarily digital consumer brands in the personal care space, fashion and accessories, food and beverages, and digital commerce. The program allows the company to access a platform for capital, for celebrity engagement, for marketing and sales support.
Okay, you tell me about the collaboration in this.
I've been working with Antle for about a year and a half, and the first program that we ran was in technology, and technology specifically for the entertainment and media business. And we saw a lot of progress, a lot of success in that, and found 2 or 3 very, very interesting technologies that we now adapted into our system itself. And we said, let's move on and start building a consumer brand base. Because over the years, I've been partnered with Kwan for many years now. And we've seen a completely different strategy of advertising in today's consumer world. And we realized it's more specific, it's more storytelling based. It's the classic advertising agencies have now become dinosaurs. There's nothing really happening there. So we realized, why not build a specific program? Find brands that need this certain market and first scale them up, see if there's a celebrity that needs to be attached and endorse it to scale them up further. So that's really what the program offers.
Okay, so I was going to this thing introduction wherein I found the application time is very less. I found it. It's only 23rd December. As you have launched this today, many of them might be not knowing about this, are not aware about this. Do you think this timing is less and you should have exceeded the timing?
Yeah, to be honest, yeah, you're right. And I think we have a very short window for applications. But because this is our first one, it doesn't mean that it's going to stop here. After 6 months, we'll look at other brands coming in. And it doesn't stop us from selecting a brand after the 6 months is over, on a random basis. It doesn't have to be that, they all have to come together as a batch. The first batch, we wanted to bring it together because then there's a lot of learning and sharing. And then from the second batch, we are open for brands to come directly to us. And we see, okay, is this a company that we can both help scale up and we help use the ecosystem, and then we can bring it on.
Okay, so how difficult it is for you to manage this acting and as well as entrepreneur life?
See, one other thing, to me, it feels like it's one and the same thing, right? I have to either endorse a brand or I can just make an early stage startup get to becoming a brand. So I think it's pretty much the same thing for me. It doesn't take too much of my time, and I work with smart people like Prasad and his team. So I think I'm okay.
We tell the same story again and again.
Okay, but tell us how is it collaborating with him?
It's fantastic. Rana is, I think, one of the few people in the industry, and I think I'm sure a lot more, but he has the ability to think broader, higher from a vision category. He is very passionate, very involved, and when you said whether acting or this, I think he likes both. And for him, it's to bring this on a common platform of storytelling. And that's his intent to actually scale this up. And I couldn't find a better partner than Rana to help build this business for us.
What is that one thing which you focuses on when you collaborate with any brand?
See, first, like just to add to what Prasad said last, the reason also with specific time programs, we didn't want to take on too many brands. We ultimately, it's a program, we need to see that they all scale to a certain size by the time we open our next round, right? For us, it's to me specifically, it will be in the advertising space, in the space of directly getting to that consumer, right? So that's the real big space that I'd like to fix. And today, with partnerships with Quan and others, that's a real speed scale that we're looking for brands, and I think that will be my focus area for each of them.
Thank you so much.
Thank you.
Thank you.